After a long, exhausting day at the clinic, all I wanted was a little peace. My back ached, my feet were sore. I hadn't eaten since morning. I was just hoping for a warm meal. Maybe a hug from my husband. Maybe a quiet moment to sit and breathe. I parked my car in the driveway and stared at the porch light. Home. It used to feel like the safest place in the world. Lately, though, it felt colder. Like something had shifted, just slightly, and I couldn't name it. I sighed, grabbed my bag, and walked up the steps. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I didn't hear the usual sound of the TV or Eric tapping away at his laptop. No scent of dinner in the air. Just silence. I pushed open the door and stepped inside. The hallway was dim, the living room empty. I dropped my bag by the door and called out softly, "Eric? Kendra?" No answer. I walked slowly toward the kitchen, hoping maybe someone had left food out. Nothing. My stomach tightened. It was strange. Both of them were usually home by now. I headed toward the back of the house. That's when I heard it. A sound. Muffled. Faint. But not random. It was soft at first. A breath. A rustle. Then it grew louder. Rhythmic. Low. Moaning. I froze. I wasn't sure what I was hearing at first. My heart started pounding. The sound was coming from the bedroom. Our bedroom. No, it couldn't be. I stepped closer, moving as quietly as I could, like I was afraid to wake a monster. Each step made my pulse pound louder in my ears. The door was cracked open just a little. My hand trembled as I reached for it. Please let it be the TV. A dumb movie. Something. Anything. I pushed the door open, and I saw them. Eric, on top of someone. My first thought, stupid, really, was that he must be watching a movie. But then I saw her face. Kendra, my little sister. Her arms wrapped around my husband, her head thrown back on my pillow, the blanket barely covering either of them. I couldn't move. My breath caught in my throat. My legs felt like stone. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stood there. Eric looked up first. His face froze. Then Kendra turned and saw me. Her eyes widened. Neither of them said a word. And neither of them looked sorry. It was like I was invisible. I looked at the bed, the one Eric and I had shared for years, the one we talked about starting a family in, the one I cleaned, the one I made every morning. I looked at my sister, my own blood, the girl I helped raise, the girl I gave a roof to when she had nowhere else to go, and now she was lying in my sheets with my husband like she belonged there. I took a step back, then another. Still, not a word from them. No apology, no panic, just silence. I didn't remember walking back through the hallway, or grabbing my keys, or slamming the front door. All I know is that by the time I reached my car, I was shaking so hard I could barely hold the steering wheel. I sat there for a long time. No tears came. Just emptiness. Like something had been scooped out of me and thrown in the trash. I had given everything to those two people. My heart, my home, my trust. And they took it. Together. If you're hooked by Alina's story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for the next part. Tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in her shoes? 3 months ago, if someone had told me my sister would betray me like that, I would have laughed in their face. Kendra? No. She was reckless, yes. Immature, sure. But she was my sister. My baby sister. I practically raised her when our mom worked double shifts. I was the one who packed her school lunches, helped her with homework, and even taught her how to drive. She used to look up to me. She used to hug me like I was her safe place. When she showed up crying on my doorstep, I didn't hesitate for a second. It was pouring that night. Her mascara was running, and her suitcase was falling apart. She said her boyfriend kicked her out after an ugly fight. She had nowhere to go. She had no money, no job, and barely enough gas in her car to get across town. Of course, I let her in. Stay as long as you need, I told her. This is your home too. Eric wasn't thrilled about it. He forced a smile in front of her, but I could tell from the way he pressed his lips tight. Later that night, he pulled me aside and said, "How long is she staying?" I said, "I don't know until she finds her feet." He sighed but didn't argue. At first, it felt nice having her around. She helped with the dishes. She played music while I cooked. She even brought me lunch at work one day, saying, "You never take care of yourself. Let me do it for once." But slowly, little things started to change. She began sleeping in late, sitting around in her pajamas till noon, watching shows with Eric in the evenings when I had to work double shifts at the clinic. I figured they were just being friendly. I was grateful she wasn't alone. Sometimes I'd walk in, and they'd be laughing about something I didn't understand. Eric would say, "Inside joke." Kendra would giggle, "You had to be there." I brushed it off. I wanted to believe nothing was wrong, but I saw things. Subtle things. Kendra started wearing my clothes. At first she asked, then she just didn't. I'd come home and find her in one of my blouses, curled up on the couch, pretending it was no big deal. Once I opened my makeup drawer and noticed my lipstick was missing. Later that night, Kendra had the exact shade on. She swore it was hers. I told myself I was being petty, selfish. She was going through a hard time. But Eric started acting weird too. He locked his phone when he never used to. He changed his laptop password. He stayed up late, saying he had deadlines. I'd find empty wine glasses in the sink, when I hadn't had a drop. Still. I pushed the thoughts away. She's your sister, Alina. Don't be paranoid. I told myself that over and over. I even defended her when one of my coworkers made a comment about how young single women in tight clothes can be dangerous in a married home. She's not like that, I said. She's family. God. I feel stupid now, blind. I even encouraged them to bond. I told Kendra, "Thanks for keeping him company. He's been feeling lonely lately." I told Eric, "Maybe you two can hang out while I'm gone." I was the one who opened the door. I was the one who handed them the key. And they walked through it like I didn't even matter. Looking back now, the signs were there. The long glances, the soft giggles, the inside jokes I didn't understand, the subtle tension I ignored. I just didn't want to believe that the two people I loved most would ever do that to me. But they did. And all the kindness, all the loyalty, all the trust I gave, it meant nothing to them. It's strange how the past plays tricks on you after everything falls apart. Little things I barely noticed before are now screaming in my memory. Things I laughed off, brushed aside, or forced myself to forget. They come back now like sharp little thorns pressing into my skin. I remember the first time it really felt off. I came home early from work one afternoon, a last-minute schedule change at the clinic. I didn't tell anyone I was coming back. I thought I'd surprise Eric and maybe get a chance to rest. When I opened the front door, I heard laughter. Low, playful, flirty. It was coming from the kitchen. I walked in and saw Eric and Kendra standing close. Too close. She was wearing one of my tank tops, the lacy one I usually wore to bed, and no bra. Her hand brushed his arm as she laughed, like they were in the middle of some private joke. They both jumped when they saw me. Eric quickly stepped back. Kendra smiled and said, "Oh, hey, you're home early." She opened the fridge like nothing had happened. Eric muttered something about helping her fix the coffee machine. I wanted to believe them, so I did. Another time, I found one of her earrings on our bedroom floor. Just one. When I asked her about it, she giggled and said, "Oops, I must have dropped it while folding laundry." I didn't even remember asking her to fold laundry. But I smiled and let it go. One night, I woke up thirsty and went to the kitchen for water. As I passed the living room, I saw them sitting together in the dark, on the same couch, watching some old movie. She had her legs pulled up under a blanket. He had his arm resting on the back of the couch, too close to her shoulder. They didn't notice me. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to start a fight. I didn't want to look insecure. I was trying to be a good wife, a good sister. I kept convincing myself I was imagining it, even when I started noticing how she would compliment him more than she used to. "Wow, Eric, you're getting fit again." Or, You should wear that shirt more, you look hot in it. She said it in a playful way, like it was harmless. But it wasn't harmless. It was never harmless. One day I brought up my feelings to Eric, gently. Has Kendra been acting strange to you lately? I asked while we were doing dishes. I don't know. She's just a little too comfortable sometimes. He gave me a look like I'd just accused him of something terrible. Are you seriously jealous of your own sister? I felt ashamed, embarrassed. I apologized. I told him I was just tired, overthinking. He kissed me on the forehead and said, "Don't stress yourself over nothing." I believed him. But then there was Mrs. Langley, our neighbor. Sweet old woman. She's quiet and kind, but she notices everything. She stopped me one morning while I was getting the mail and said, "Your sister and your husband make quite the pair. I always see them out walking together lately. It's sweet of him to help her feel welcome." I didn't say anything. I smiled politely, but my stomach turned. I never once went on a walk with Eric anymore, not even short ones. I told myself I was being dramatic, but deep down, something inside me knew. Still, I shoved it all aside. I worked longer hours, filled my days with patience and paperwork, trying not to think about what I was afraid to see. Because if I let myself believe it, even for a second, my world would start to crack. And now that it has cracked, shattered, actually, I look back and wonder, why didn't I trust my instincts? Why did I let them fool me? The truth is, I didn't want to believe the people I loved most were capable of destroying me, but they were, and they did. I didn't go home that night. After seeing them, after standing in that doorway, frozen, while my husband and my sister ruined everything we had, I couldn't walk back into that house like nothing happened. I drove around for hours. No music, no destination. Just the hum of the engine and my hands gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from falling apart. Eventually, I parked in the hospital lot and just sat there until the sun rose. The next morning, I did what I never thought I'd have the strength to do. I went back. Not because I wanted to talk, not because I needed closure. I went because it was my house, and I wasn't going to let them steal that too. When I stepped inside, the place was quiet again. Too clean, too still. Like someone had tried to erase the night before. I walked straight to the kitchen. Eric was there, sipping coffee like it was any other day. When he saw me, he stiffened. But he didn't look ashamed, just annoyed. "You didn't come home last night," he said as if I had done something wrong. I stared at him, not blinking. "I saw you," I said quietly. He said nothing, just took another sip from his mug. "You and Kendra," I added. "I saw everything." He sighed, then put the cup down. "So what now?" That's what he said. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "let me explain," just, "What now?" I felt like I was speaking to a stranger. I asked the one question I'd been terrified to say out loud. "How long?" He looked at me for a moment, then shrugged. "A few months." My stomach turned. "A few months?" I whispered. "She's been living under our roof? You've been sleeping with my sister in our bed?" "She came on to me, Alina," he said flatly. "I didn't plan for it to happen, but it did. And honestly, it felt nice to be wanted." I stared at him, blinking back the sting in my eyes. He continued, "You're always tired, always working, always drained. You don't even look at me anymore." "So you cheated?" I snapped. "With my sister?" He stood up. "You pushed me away." Just like that. He placed the blame at my feet, as if I'd asked for this. As if my 12-hour shifts, my aching feet, my sacrifice to keep this house running, meant nothing. And then, like a bad dream getting worse, Kendra walked into the kitchen, wearing one of Eric's shirts. Her hair wet from a shower, no shame on her face, not even a trace of guilt. She looked me in the eye and said, "I didn't mean to hurt you." I laughed. I actually laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "You didn't mean to hurt me," I said. "You've been living in my home, eating my food, sleeping in my bed, with my husband. And now you're going to act like this just happened? I was lonely, she said. You wouldn't understand. No, Kendra, I said. I do understand. I've been lonely too. But I didn't destroy anyone to fix it. I turned to Eric. You want her? Fine, have her. He looked surprised. Maybe he thought I'd beg. Maybe he thought I'd fight for him. But I didn't. I was done fighting for people who treated me like I didn't matter. This is my house, I said, my voice shaking. But I'm not going to stay here. Not tonight. I grabbed a bag, packed what I needed, and walked out. They didn't stop me. They didn't chase me. They just let me go. And in that moment, I realized something painful, but true. They didn't love me. Not really. Because if they did, they wouldn't have watched me walk away like I was nothing. I spent the first few nights in a cheap motel just outside town, the kind with flickering hallway lights and vending machines that ate your coins. I didn't care. I just needed to be somewhere that didn't smell like betrayal. The bed was hard, the sheets were rough, the silence was deafening. But I stayed. I lay there every night, staring at the ceiling, playing everything over and over again in my head. My sister's face, Eric's shrug, their complete lack of remorse, like I was just a detail they forgot to erase. I didn't cry much, not because I wasn't hurt. I was shattered. But the pain was too big for tears. It sat in my chest like a rock, heavy and silent. On the third day, my coworker Maya called. You haven't shown up to work, she said softly. Everyone's worried. I told her I was fine. She didn't believe me. You don't sound fine, Alina, she said. But I'm coming by with some food. Don't argue. That evening, she knocked on my door with a bag of takeout and a hug that nearly broke me. She didn't push. She didn't ask questions. She just sat with me, let me eat in silence, and left a pair of fuzzy socks behind with a note that read, You are more than what they did to you. That note. I taped it to the motel mirror. The next morning I showered, properly. I even did my hair. I still didn't feel like myself. But I was starting to remember her. Work was hard at first. I could barely focus. My hands trembled during patient check-ins. But the clinic was my anchor. Helping others reminded me that I still had value. That I wasn't just a woman someone cheated on. I started writing in a journal every night. Just messy thoughts and angry words at first, then pieces of myself I wanted to keep, dreams I had put on hold, goals I forgot I had, even little affirmations like, You are not broken. You are beginning again. One afternoon after my shift, I got a surprise visit from Mrs. Langley. She showed up at the clinic with a small container of homemade stew. I figured you weren't eating, she said, placing it on the counter. I smiled weakly. You heard, didn't you? She nodded. Walls are thin, and I've got eyes. I didn't know what to say. She looked at me for a long moment and said, They think they've won something. But darling, what they've done is chain themselves together in a prison made of lies. Let them sit in it. I don't know why, but that sentence stayed with me. The next day, I checked my bank account. I froze. Thousands of dollars were missing from our joint savings. I scrolled through the transactions, jewelry stores, boutique purchases, restaurant bills, none of them mine. Eric had been spending our money. My money. I dug deeper and found more. Transfers, cash withdrawals, and then something worse. A brand new credit card opened under my name, maxed out. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Kendra's signature was on one of the scanned forms. She used my name, my social security number. They hadn't just cheated on me, they were stealing from me, ripping apart everything I worked for. That night, I didn't cry. I opened a new bank account, changed my passwords, froze my credit. Then I sat down with my journal and wrote one line over and over again. They don't get to ruin me. Because now, I was done being heartbroken. I was done feeling small. They thought I would disappear quietly. But they didn't know me at all. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was focused. Something shifted in me the moment I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. It was manipulation. It was fraud. They had lied to my face, but worse. They had reached into my life and taken everything they could grab: my home, my trust, my money, even my name. And I wasn't going to let them walk away without consequences. I started by getting a lawyer, a real one, not the free consultation kind. I used money from a small emergency fund I had stashed away, money they didn't know about. He listened carefully as I laid everything out: the cheating, the financial abuse, the fake credit account in my name. He didn't blink. He nodded and said, "We'll build a case, and we'll make sure they feel it." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had power again. At the same time, I kept going to work. I didn't want to give Eric or Kendra the satisfaction of thinking I'd fallen apart. I was exhausted, sure. But every patient I helped reminded me who I really was: strong, steady, and good. And I needed that reminder, because outside the clinic, I was gathering everything. I printed bank statements. I gathered receipts and records of every unauthorized withdrawal. I saved screenshots of texts and emails. Kendra had actually used my email address to register a boutique business name, some silly idea she called Golden Glow Skincare. She used my identity to build something she was showing off online like it was hers. Every photo, every purchase, every login, I kept it all. And then came the worst part: the lies they were telling others. Mutual friends started acting weird. Some stopped returning my calls. One even asked, "Are you okay? I heard you pushed Eric away and accused Kendra out of jealousy." Jealousy? That hit like a slap. Kendra had been telling people I was cold to Eric, that I was never home and too obsessed with work, that I wasn't taking care of him, so he found comfort elsewhere. She made it sound like I gave her permission. The lies didn't stop there. She told our cousin Lisa that I offered to co-sign a card for her new business. "She's just mad it's going well," Kendra said. They were rewriting the story, making me the villain in my own life. But I didn't respond. I didn't argue. I let them talk, because I was building something stronger than words, and when it was ready, I was going to let the truth speak for itself. But even in the middle of my quiet war, I started healing. I spent more time with Maya. We watched silly movies, ate ice cream out of the container, and laughed about things that had nothing to do with betrayal. I joined a volunteer program on weekends, just a few hours helping at a women's shelter. The first time I sat across from a woman who had lost everything to a toxic partner, I saw myself in her eyes. She said, "I didn't know where to start." And I said, "Start with your name. You still own that." It helped me too. I was finding pieces of myself again, hidden under all the hurt. I stopped missing Eric, stopped wondering how Kendra could do it. The truth was, they didn't care about me, not in the way I cared about them. And once I accepted that, something inside me went still, not empty, not angry, clear. And when my lawyer called and said, "We're ready," I didn't flinch. He asked if I wanted to serve them quietly. "No," I said. "I want them both there, face to face." "Are you sure?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes, I want them to see what they turned me into." Because the woman they betrayed? She was gone. The one coming to the table now? She was a storm. The courtroom was colder than I expected. Or maybe it was just me. Frozen on the outside, burning on the inside. Eric sat at the defendant's table in a stiff gray suit, pretending to look confused. Kendra, 2 rows behind him, wore a smirk like she thought this was some kind of misunderstanding. But when the judge entered and called my name, all their expressions started to crack. I stood up tall. "My name is Alina Moore," I said, voice clear and strong. "And I'm here because 2 people I trusted most used my name, my finances, and my identity to fund their affair and their dreams, while leaving me with nothing." Every head turned. Even Eric's attorney looked uncomfortable. Over the past few months, my lawyer and I had built a mountain of evidence. Kendra used my credit score to open multiple accounts. She forged my signature. She even applied for a business loan in my name, and the approval was granted based on my employment history and my salary records. And Eric, he knew the whole time. In fact, he gave her access to our joint bank account and helped her make purchases that were traced back to my work login, my badge, my devices. It was a full-scale financial betrayal. When the judge asked if I had anything to say before closing, I took a breath and turned toward them both. I came home one night, tired, heart full of trust, and I found my husband in bed with my own sister. That was the night my life shattered. Eric flinched. Kendra rolled her eyes until I looked her dead in the face. You didn't just cheat. You stole. You made me feel invisible in my own life. But I want you both to know, I'm not the woman you broke. I'm the woman who rebuilt herself. And now, I'm the one holding the receipts. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge ruled in my favor on every count: identity theft, credit fraud, emotional damages, and the unauthorized use of marital funds. Eric was ordered to pay back over $200,000 in damages. His name was added to a national fraud watch list. And Kendra, well, her little business was now property of the court, pending restitution. But that wasn't all. With the ruling in hand, I went public, not out of spite, but to reclaim my truth. I shared my story with a women's advocacy group and posted an open letter online titled, "When Your Husband and Sister Betray You, and You Take Back Every Dime." It went viral. Thousands of women messaged me, thanking me for speaking out. Some had similar stories. Some just wanted to know how I found the strength to fight back. I told them the truth. Strength didn't come from revenge. It came from refusing to stay broken. But I won't lie. Watching Eric sell his precious car and Kendra's boutique being shut down, that felt satisfying. Maya helped me move into a new place. Nothing fancy, just peaceful. The kind of place where I could sit by the window with tea and not be afraid to breathe. I started journaling again, volunteering more. Even laughed on a date with someone who knew nothing about my past. Just me, no baggage, no lies. And every time I looked in the mirror now, I didn't see the woman who walked in on a nightmare. I saw a survivor, a woman who'd been betrayed by blood and bond, and still stood tall. I saw someone who didn't just take back what was hers, she took back herself. Forever.